Quaid Azam Part 151. Then on top of all this, Simon maintained a totally unsympathetic attitude towards separate electorates. Further, in the central legislature, the Commission recommended the abolition of separate representation. The report did not even consider the Muslim demands for the majority by separate electorates in Punjab and Bengal. Patently for Muslim conference, this report was a great discouragement, and to many it felt akin to an open challenge, and to the moderates a deliberate provocation. Under such circumstances, it was largely Fazl Hussain who then damage controlled the Muslim position vis-a-vis the government. First he placed a frontier Muslim approaching the officials, then gradually he brought them around the appreciating importance for reforms in the frontier region. Then he secured the Muslim position in the majority provinces by working for maximum provincial autonomy. On the question of minorities, he argued that he was not interested in the question of religion or culture, more about the representation in the local bodies and services. All along, Fazl Hussain argued that the Simon Commission had done great injustice by making its recommendation on the basis of Lucknow Pact of 1916. He emphasized that the recognition of Muslim majorities in Punjab and Bengal was not to be made subject to the surrendering of the principle of weightage in the minority provinces. Fazl Hussein's voice was that of the provinces. For him, the question of Muslim representation in Punjab and Bengal was distinctly apart. That stood on its own. His view was that no change should be made at the center until the provinces had established themselves. However, once a decision had been made in a principle that certain subjects were to be transferred, he endeavored to limit them to the very minimum. He also argued against the Simon Commission's recommendations for indirect election to the Assembly on the grounds that he would transfer power into the hands of either provincial caucuses, or place Congress in a dominating position in the Legislative Assembly. Fazl Hussain had remained apprehensive about the nature of the power that would eventually be developed until suggestions about the first round table conference. Until now, only a floating got crystallized. Against the complex background, the first round table conference was finally called in London for November 1930. The first round table conference, 12 November 1930. In May 1929, before going home, Irvin had a long personal talk with Jinnah, who briefed him comprehensively on his ideas about the proposed conference, and followed that up with a letter to the British Prime Minister Ramsay MacDonald, arguing the need for reiterating the pledges of Dominion status and of convening a roundtable conference. In his statement of 31 October 1929 to the Central Assembly, Irvin was able to deliver both, thus giving India all that Jinnah and men of his thinking had demanded, which was much more than any other victory, much more than any other viceroy had been willing to, or had until then been able to give. Jinnah's response to Irvin's announcement was to take up the challenge of making a success of this offer as a personal responsibility. He felt it was his moral duty to do so. The Congress in the interim had issued their leaders' manifesto, which insisted that roundtable conference should meet not to discuss by when the Dominion status had to be established, but to frame a scheme for the Dominion Constitution of India. These different priorities were in reality two different approaches. The first accepted Dominion status as a given, a starting point to be advanced from, therefore advocated this and the practical course. The second stood for framing Dominion Constitution as a precondition. This was the caution step by step legalistic path, get the detail specific accepted before moving on to consenting to the general.